I would like to welcome you all to our next session. My name is Greta Reitma, as JC kindly already introduced me. I work for InHope, the International Association of Internet Hotlines, and today I will be moderating this panel. We have 45 minutes for this panel. 5 minutes of the end of the panel will be dedicated for Q&A. So if you have any questions that you would like to ask during this discussion, please remember them, write them down, and you will have the floor in the end of the session. Another thing to highlight is that there will be a workshop, as mentioned before, on the very same topic. I hope the upcoming discussion will inspire you and give you some food for thought to elaborate further in this afternoon. Before starting with the substance and meeting the rest of the panelists, I would like to take a moment to focus on the topic of today. So our panel discussion is called Victim Approach to Remove Harmful Content. Well, clearly we are talking about victims. This is not, however, this is a term that we want to move away from. Talking with people who have experienced online harm, it has come clear that this is not the way they would like to be referred. Let's be honest, we all think that it has, in a way, a negative undertone to it. The preferred words or the preferred way to refer to those people are survivors and people with lived experience. So I would say that the first key takeaway from this session is let's try to stop using the word victim, and let's start using survivor and people with lived experience. Another thing I would like to briefly mention is that while at first glance this topic seems to be quite straightforward, it actually has a lot to be unpacked. Victim approach, so from now on survivor approach. What should we focus on when we have only 45 minutes to talk about this? Should we talk about global approach or individual approach? Should we talk about technology or legislation? Should we talk about physical or mental support to survivors? Also, if we want to be survivor-centric, does that mean that the way we talk about deepfakes and AI, do we take a different approach when we are talking from the survivor perspective? Does the survivor perspective approach mean that anything we talk about, technology development, will have a completely different angle or not? And here are our experts for that, luckily to help us navigate through those questions and get some clarity on the matter. I would like to ask the rest of the panelists to briefly introduce themselves and with few words explain why are they at the panel today.
Thank you so much for the introduction and your kind words. Stéphane Dugam, the Chief Executive Officer of the Cyber Peace Institute in Geneva, non-for-profit, which is looking into free cybersecurity and digital resilience for vulnerable communities. I guess I'm in this panel because of what I did before, meaning 10 years in Europol and 25 years in law enforcement, focusing on victims, survivors, focusing on especially gender-based violence, abuse of women, sexism, and everything that is around online crime, from cybercrime to counterterrorism, and very happy to share some thoughts about how to put back the survivor. I'm going to use your word, even in French. Victim has another meaning than in English, I guess, but okay. How to put the survivors specifically in the center of any type of response that we are planning. So thank you for the invitation.
Hello, my name is Siggi Ragnarsson, and I am the CEO of Byte Identifier. We are a technology company that has developed a technology for identification of known images and videos, and we can identify this content despite significant modifications. And our technology is used for identification of harmful content, most notably child sexual abuse material, and it's been used by law enforcement agencies and hotlines around the world. And we have been really supportive on the initiatives to fight sexual abuse content, image-based sexual violence, and we believe that using matching technologies can be very important in the takedown process for this content.
Hi everyone, so my name is Shani Klima-McLaren. I am a feminist activist and I'm also one of the founders of an NGO called Stop Ficha. So Stop Ficha is a French feminist NGO that fights against what we call cyber sexism and also online and technology facilitated gender-based violence. And yeah, I'm very glad to be here, and I believe the reason why I'm here is because it's our daily work on a grassroots level to support and accompany victims and survivors of those crimes. So yeah, and I'm happy to share more about the work we do.
Thank you very much. I hope the panelists don't mind if I call them by their first name. Isabel, I would like to start with you. Thank you so much for this introduction speech. It was really nice and really encouraging. And I would like to start this discussion to ask you, from your experience, what do survivors need from legislators to improve their situation? Are they enough heard by legislators? Have you seen a shift also from the mentality from the politicians and legislators on more to focus more on survivors and listen more to their ideas?
So thank you. I think that we forget too often the victims. So and that's why I am here. So and we must know that violence online is a real violence, and this violence causes a lot of bad things, and a lot of victims whom I saw were very, very destroyed. And I think that it's important to know that when we work in the tech, I think it's very, very important, and to meet some victims. And I know that Stop Ficha does a very nice work with this victim, and brings them very important help, and so I sustain Stop Ficha. It's I think that the politicians are now more conscious of this necessity to fight against cyber violence, and recently, so for the first time, the Tribunal of Paris condemned very strongly men who had committed cyber harassment. And it's the first time that men were condemned for a punishment with prison. So, and the lawyer, Russell Flore-Pardo, is here, and I think it's very important to be more conscious about this harassment, this real violence. Cyber violence is real violence.
Thank you very much. Indeed, it is good to hear that we are for sure moving in the right direction in this, maybe slowly, but we are taking our steps, and we are bringing this topic on the spotlight. Shanli, would you maybe talk a little bit more about Stop Ficha and explain to the audience quickly what is NCII, why is it in the headlights today, and how Stop Ficha and initiatives like Stop Ficha have been helping survivors have changing their life?
That's a very big question, but I'll try to sum up as much as possible. But to briefly explain you guys what happened, why we are here, you know, why Stop Fisha exists, it basically starts from the quarantine. So, you know, in April 2020, we were all online, you know, so we were all stuck on our phones. And basically what happened is that just a couple of days afterwards, there was a rise and explosion of online gender-based violence, and more specifically, what we call image-based sexual abuse. So I don't know if you guys know what image-based sexual abuse mean. I don't know, but yeah, revenge porn, basically. But we don't use that word because revenge porn means that the victim or the survivor has, you know, provoked the revenge that she then goes through. And then porn, we don't use that word because porn is hypersexualizing women's bodies. And sometimes it's just, you know, a picture of a back. So it's not necessarily pornography. So we don't use revenge porn. We use image-based sexual abuse. So there you are. That's a more appropriate word. And so what happened during the quarantine is that very rapidly, there were accounts named Fisha, hence Stop Fisha. So Fisha accounts on, you know, Snapchat and other social media, and they were just called Fisha with the name of a city, Fisha with the name of a department. And the first Fisha accounts I saw were thanks to my little sister, who was 16 at the time, and there were Fisha accounts in the city where she studied in her high school. And so we saw, you know, friends of hers and loads of people that we actually knew. And that's when I was like, wow, this is actually very serious. And it was intimate content of these girls, you know, disseminated online without their consent on these accounts with their personal data and all of it. And it was just a massive slut shaming. And it was just very horrible. So I was reporting, but nothing was going on. Snapchat wasn't moderating, but actually no social media was moderating it at the time. So it just went super viral, and I was like, how is this possible? How is this actually happening? And at that moment, I was like, okay, we need to do something bigger. So that's when I launched another online on Twitter, social media, and I was like, okay, guys, here's what's going on. And I did this with the survivors, right? So I had their full consent, and I did that with them, and also with my little sisters and all. And that's why I was like, okay, we need to do something about it. And then we started getting into the press, so, you know, doing media interventions and just showing that we were stronger, bigger, and more viral than they were, so that shame can really change sides. So that's the story of Stop Fisha. So that was during the quarantine. And I think just a couple of months afterwards, we actually became this kind of social virtual movement that became actually physical as well, because we created this NGO. So in November 2020, so just a couple of months afterwards. And then the adventure began, and here we are today, 4 years later. And there has been a lot of work. And so to answer to your question, why initiatives of those type make headlines, it's just simply put because, you know, more and more crimes and more sexual violence are taking place online, because image-based sexual abuse is sexual violence, and also because there's a real need. There's a need because loads of victims and survivors, you know, this has been existing for years, right? But now we really talk about it more, and we do realize that there's a lack of, you know, help. There's a lack of support. There is nothing at all. You know, when you're a victim of sexual violence in the physical space, you go to the police station, you go to the, you know, you report a case, etc. Well, we know that it's very hard, right? And we know that it doesn't really end to actually something. But when it takes place on the online space, it's even more difficult. And not only you face the impunity from the judicial system, but also the impunity from platforms. And just to sum up real quick with some numbers, I'd say that today, in regards to online violence, 73% of women have already reported being victims of online gender-based violence, and women are 27 times more likely to be victims than men. So there's a real systemic sexism in online gender-based violence. And also image-based sexual abuse has been recognized by researchers as being the peak of cyber violence and in terms of harm, actually. And yeah, to wrap up real quick, I'd say that what's dangerous with online gender-based violence is that it is omnipresent, viral, it is long-term, because you're not a victim once. you're a victim for months and months, years and years, so it's long term, and also it's transnational. Transnational because when you're a victim of image-based sexual abuse, the content are published approximately 42 times online on 42 different platforms. That's according to the Revenge Porn Helpline. So I'll let you imagine that this is, for example, if I'm a victim, my content will not be disseminated only in France, but transnationally, which you can only imagine the harms that this creates, and the harms are psychological, sexual and intimate as well, but also social, professional, all of it. It's actually a real sabotage. So there you are. There is a big need, and hopefully initiatives would be found, and we hope that there would be more political engagement on this, because it is a technical but also a political and a social issue as well. So it was a bit long, sorry, but at least you got all the information.
No, absolutely. Thank you very much. It is great to see how we are stepping up on changing it from something that used to be a taboo, and people were afraid to talk about it and were ashamed to talk about it, into we're bringing the light now on this matter. We are talking about it, and we are trying to figure out all the solutions how to help survivors and to stop this harm. Stefan, for you, could you please let us know what is the mission of Cyber Peace Institute, and how would you explain what is actually a survivor approach in this matter?
No, thank you. And I'll build upon what has been said before, because you mentioned a key word to me several times, which is harm. So I spent more than 25 years in my career to chase criminal groups or terrorism groups. And at the end of the day, when you do this work, you focus on the perpetrator. So at the end of the day, I interviewed hundreds of victims, survivors. But at the end of the day, the action of law enforcement is to get enough information to get perpetrator in front of the justice. I would say the interest of the victims is almost secondary, which is sad, but it's almost secondary. But there's something critical to this proceeding, which are, how do you measure the harm? You need to find a way to understand what is the harm, because in a lot of legal texts all around the planet, the harm measurements decide on the threshold of accountability, on what is going to happen to the perpetrator. And let's hold that thought for a second. If you look in the cyber field, meaning cyber attacks, or meaning online violence, we have a stack of the internet, the thing that is more like towards the infrastructure, the one more towards the content, there's no measurement of the harm. There's no methodology out there to measure the harm. The storytelling, and that's a big issue here, the storytelling on cyber is mostly on financial loss. Mostly. When you describe about attacks, it's financial loss. This cost this. But it's very difficult to quantify the harm. So I would argue, if you want to have the survivor at the center of the problematic, we need to put a new storytelling, which is harm-centric, backed by a methodology. So to your question, Cyber Peace Institute, what we do, we just landed that methodology last year, and now we are going to put it through use cases to stress test it against real attacks. And to see these attacks, if we go for new measurements, how can we quantify the harm? And if we can quantify the harm, what does it mean for accountability? Because otherwise, it's very difficult to voice what is really happening to a survivor. Two examples, quickly, if I may share. What does it mean? You may know an attack that happened in Finland more than 2 years ago. It was a cyber attack on a clinic, which was ensuring psychological support to patients. In a nutshell, someone got into the system, got all the patient data, all of it, and this is a taped conversation between the patient and the doctor. So everything that you say to your psychologist, your psychiatrist, so imagine. The attacker went to the clinic and said, I have your data, you have to pay. And the clinic said, no, I don't pay, I don't care, I don't mind. Okay, so that perpetrator went to each and every victim, 31,000 of them, with a ransom demand, and to say, you pay to me 500 euros, otherwise your secrets with your psychologist is going to be on the internet. But because that perpetrator was not that smart, in order to prove the knowledge and the ownership of the data, he put online the full data sets. when he was supposed to put just a part of it. So these full data sets, a bit to your point before, has been downloaded by everyone. And it's still downloadable. If you look for it, it's still out there. So let's look at the harm. Today, this case is measured in money. And the guy could make 10K out of it. So you would imagine the harm is quite low. But the real harm here is that 31,000 people have forever their conversation with the practitioners out there on the internet, forever. And 31,000 people in Finland is 0.5% of the population. So in one attack, with a very low level of sophistication, you hit 0.5% of a country for something that is going to be a permanent harm. I think that's how we need to recraft the storytelling. So on this note, that's what we do in the Institute. So making coalition to get the right data to look into this harm, partnership with civil society mainly, but also interfacing with the companies and government to be sure that we can have this public-facing data in order to voice what is really happening to the victims, survivors.
Well, thank you. Yes, taking the survival approach, talking with a lot of survivors, child survivors from the Brave movement, and also adult survivors from of NCII, there has been one clear message that has come constantly through, which is that they would want to be more involved in technological, procedural developments on stopping online harm. They have the knowledge, they want to share the experience, and they want to contribute in the global fight against online harm. So I would like the panelists, but also all the people in the audience, to think, how can your organization respond to this request of including better the survivors into your processes, into your domain? Is it possible? And if yes, how? When we talk about, for example, harm-centric approach, probably exactly the survivors' stories are the baseline to also understand better what directions to take. I will come back to this a little bit later, but let's go on now for a more technical and practical point of view. Ziggy, to follow up the last panel discussion about human moderation, what do you think? Can human moderation, should it be removed and replaced with AI? If yes, what kind of tools should we invest in to improve it? Because from the last panel discussion, we heard that human moderation has several flaws. It is slow. It has some questions of quality, because it will also depend on individual moderating the content. What is your input on that?
Yeah, I think that in this this instance, we need to use all the tools available to our disposal. And AI has proven to be extremely efficient in identifying multiple harms. You know, and it's getting better every month, I could say. While this is really, really good, we still need to rely on human moderators. But also, one of the other things that is challenging is context, this lack of context. And when you're reviewing content, if you lack context, you might make sometimes, well, you could say incorrect decisions. Let's say, for example, you are viewing a picture of a girl in a chair. She's sitting in shorts and a t-shirt, and this triggers no alarms. However, this might be a part of an image-based abuse campaign, because that girl might be coming from a cultural area where this kind of attire is frowned upon. And here you have to use tools like hash lists that can identify this particular image and provide a context on the background of this image. So there is no single tool that does everything, but a combination of tools can make all the difference.
Thank you very much. And to move onwards from that, Stefan, how would you combine smart AI technology with survival approach, including the people with lived experience? what would be the ideal ecosystem in your mind?
I would argue, I mean, there's the dream that AI or tech is going to solve everything, but we should go back to basics to see what should already be working and is not. Another example. So I had I mean, it was a tough one because this testimony of survivor was really hard. Sharing this with you, two mothers who got their child murdered by a terrorist group at the other end of the world. And when the murder was done, there was some video taken, and this video is still online, moving around. Okay. Videos that are identified, that are flagged from terrorist group. So this is I've done that job for quite some time in terms of flagging this content to platform. This is the easiest things to do. Because this is flagged, this is tagged, this is the same video. I mean, you can, hash it around, move it into a different type of version, but at the end of the day, it's not so complicated. These two ladies, today, still see the videos of their kid being murdered, ask the platform to take them down, and it's still not happening at scale in real time. And more importantly, they are targeted, these ladies, by haters, telling them, good riddance. This was supposed to happen to you because your kids were helping this part of the population having this kind of need, so that's good. What happened to them was supposed to happen to them. So this hate context is still happening, where at the end of the day, this content should not be too complicated to detect and taken down. So let's not forget what is not working and thinking that we're going to put technology to solve, something new. There's a baseline here that is really problematic in terms of self-responsibility and scale of detection and taking note of content that has been flagged. Now, to your point of where this can help, something that I haven't heard too much about the past 2 days, but to me, AI should also be used in order to help with the psychological safety of the moderators. I led team in looking every day on child sexual abuse material. I led team looking every day into Daesh most horrendous content out there. These people suffer. Looking at this every day to clean the internet is a job in itself. So I would hope that AI is also going to help to, safeguard them. Otherwise, there's not going to be so many people out there doing this job, which, by the way, it's not known, but the rate of burnout is on the increase in this part of the job market. So, food for thought.
Absolutely, thank you. And Isabel, what is your experience? What is your view? Should we keep on developing AI to fight against these online threats, or should we try to more restrict the use of AI, try to limit the development and the of technology?
I don't know if the development of AI is the real problem. Is a problem, but the problem is the violence, the cyber violence. I don't speak very IA or not. So IA will perhaps make more stronger the urge, la souffrance,
Suffering.
So the sufferance, yes, perhaps. But I think that the problem is actual. So we need to mean about AI, but we must work now about the cyber violence which exists, which is existing now. And so in France we have a platform which depends of the Minister of Interior. So, which the name of this platform is Pharos. So, and this platform can relieve some documents which are pedopornography or apology of terrorism. And when I was a minister, so I have proposed, and I think that perhaps we will arrive to do what I have proposed. But I think that this platform should retire documents which contain torture acts, barbaric acts, because such videos are very, very dangerous and cause a very,
damage.
a
Yeah, a
very
lot of
high
hurt. Yes.
sufferance. Yes, and about pornography, there is also this question with violence in pornography, which contain such pictures with torture, with barbaric, and I think that we have to retire such videos or pictures.
Thank you. So, in a way, it's not a problem of technology. It is a societal problem in the end, and we could use technology.
Yes, I think that we must be careful. We don't mistake. We don't make a mistake. So the problem is the violence. The technology is a tool.
Exactly.
So we must fight against violence and retire videos, pictures, which are problematic, and help the victims and repair their sufferance, if we can, and condemn the authors and prevent.
Yes.
So
Thank you.
I think it's a real problem, and here are the solutions. But technology is a tool, and in a normal way, men and women are the masters of this technology.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you. Ziggy, going on from that, are there any technological initiatives underway from your part that to stop this online harm, to address the removal of harmful content?
Well, the technology has been there for a long time. And if we just look at CSAM, child-based sexual abuse material, it has been illegal for years, but still we are seeing a lot of distribution of this content. And the technology is out there. We have a lot of both the hash lists from multiple providers. We got the AI technologies, but still this is going on. And because this is not just a technological problem, this is a societal problem. And what needs to happen is that we need to have more stakeholders take part in the removal of this content. And we need to put more pressure on the platforms to identify and take down this content. And one thing I have been thinking about is that what is happening right now with the AI, artificially generated content, the deepfake, the Nudify applications, and so on. What is happening right now? This is bringing this problem into the attention of the general public, because when you think about child abuse material, it's a very uncomfortable topic to talk about, and it's people don't like to think about this. And likewise with let's call it the classical image-based sexual abuse, there is also the aspect, the victim or survival blaming aspect of it. You shouldn't have taken the picture in the first place. But when you start thinking about the deepfake content, then suddenly everyone is vulnerable. And I think that, and I hope that there will be a change in the momentum, the change of attitude, and people start saying, this is just unacceptable. We need to do something about this. And that should cover all the kinds of harmful content, not just the image-based sexual abuse, not just the deepfakes, but also other types of harmful content, whether it's extremist violence or child sexual abuse material, because you can use more or less the same technology to find and take down this content. It's just a question of, well, getting everyone aboard.
Absolutely. I've also heard about the Sasha initiative. Could you elaborate on that one?
Yeah, I think that without revealing too much on the workshop later on today, there's going to be some developments on an effort to mobilize survivors of image-based sexual abuse and really move things forward regarding help for the survivors and for the takedown of this type of material.
Thank you. Yes. Shanley, I would like to ask from you, do you think that at the moment survivors get enough anonymity and support from the tech companies when they want to report about that harmful material?
I think the response is a bit, how can I say this, a bit obvious, because no, survivors don't get support, actually. Well, we do get a little bit of support, but it's nothing, and we cannot be satisfied with what we have right now. And actually, I was thinking about your previous question about what do we need, what survivors needs, what do NGOs need right now from, you know, politicians, policymakers, and, you know, like all the tech industry as well. Well, the truth is that we just need support, we need empowered, we need the skills to be shared as well. And we do not only need those tools to be survivors-centered, but also to have the gender lens. Otherwise, you will exclude a part of, you know, women, actually. And also, you were talking about, you know, the technologies that were used as tools. Well, sometimes they can even be used as weapons, actually, because we're talking about AI. And the truth is that, you know, like, there's a number which has truly stuck in my mind, which is that 92% of AI-generated content published online is pornographic. So this is hugely problematic, and when we see at the EU level that there's discussion on the AI Act, this is barely discussed. Why don't we talk about the harms of AI? Why don't we talk about this? And it's not just, you know, harm, it's not just about online violence, technology-facilitated gender-based violence. It's also about, you know, sexism and a breach of women's rights, and hence a breach of human rights, you know? So I truly think this needs to address, and that's the reason why politically, technologically speaking, we also need to include not only the survivors, but also include the gender lens. So I'd say include the NGOs, include the survivors as well, include women, more women as well, and yeah, just share the skills, empower them as well, because this is a hard field to be in, honestly. Well, it's hard because you're talking about sexual violence, you're also talking about moderation, so there's harm, but there's also blockage, political blockage as well. So for example, in the AI Act, we saw that there were huge political blockage. Same in the DSA, you know, Digital Services Act. The image-based sexual abuse is criminalized, and actually before the DSA, it was only criminalized in 11 EU countries, so we truly, you know, welcome this. But then on the other hand, when you look closer at the text, you see that image-based sexual abuse only the DSA only criminalizes image-based sexual abuse when it's sent to multiple end users, first of all, and secondly, when the content is sexually explicit. So what does that mean, actually? You know what I mean? So there's huge blockage as well, and that's why we need to pay attention, include women, girls, you know, survivors, and feminists on board, actually. Otherwise, you exclude us from this space, and we cannot go forward. And I'd really want to stress the fact that this is not only like a technological problem, it's not only a social problem, it's also political, because we're talking about democracy, women's rights, human rights, but it's also a matter of safety. We talk about, for the French folks in the room, we talk a lot about l'insécurité, you know, in France, but the truth is that women are the first ones to suffer from the insecurity, from the lack of safety, and it also takes place online, and unfortunately, it's missing from the conversations. So yeah, I think that would be my recommendations, how to get everybody on board and just, yeah, basically create alliances and hold hands, very simply speaking.
Thank you very much for this answer. I would love to go further with to discuss about the survivors' rights versus privacy rights as well, which has been impacting a lot these legislations in the first place. However, unfortunately, we have run out of time. I would like to open the floor for Q&A, or also if you would like to state how your organization is moving onwards with taking a more survivor-approached response. That would be also great to hear from the public. So are there any questions, or would you like to make any statements? Yes, we have Stephen, the microphone is coming.
I can just speak really loud. Is it working?
It works.
Okay. It was interesting because I've been working more recently, specifically in the child sexual abuse and exploitation sector, but as an organisation we also work in other domains. And I think what was really interesting is the point about survivors or victims or people who have exposure to any of this content. I think Stephanie's point in relation to the radicalisation content and violence also is going to have a significant impact, a negative impact on children generally. And I was curious what your thoughts are about the exposure that children have broadly to this type of media from a very young age. I'm old enough to remember a time before mobile phones and before this content being available, but children that are coming through now, particularly with exposure to this indecent images or abusive content, have only ever known an internet and a world where they see this. Are they being desensitized? Are they being conditioned by seeing this, and how will that impact their lives and then how they educate others? So that was one point, and my other point was about prevention. How can we work with children more from a grassroots level, primary prevention, to sort of raise education? And I know I could be mistranslated here about victim blaming, and of course I'm not, but about informing children about the scale and significance of their actions and how that could have such detrimental impacts on their lives. So I'm curious what your thoughts are there.
Thank you for the question.
No, thank you. The organization you work with, you didn't mention it?
It's an NGO called PPHS.
Okay.
We work on a variety of projects on the gamut of security,
Okay.
from radicalization to child sexual.
PPHS, thank you for mentioning. Okay, if you talk about children, you talk about parents, obviously, I guess. So I would say the first issue here is how the cognitive safety of children is thought through by their parents from the youngest age. Is this, and I'm old enough so I can, sound old now, that's easy. I don't think it's wise to have the children's first sight being a phone on there when they're just born and hoping that they're going to develop a sense of privacy 20 years afterwards. Doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to leave your children having some TikTok, Instagram, whatever the heck accounts when they are 3, 5, 4 years old and hoping that they're going to develop a sense of safety. So there's this, which, again, I'm going to sound old, sorry, but that's the basics. Then there's something else when it comes to public investment in digital literacy. Do we have enough resources to educate children and parents to digital literacy? What it means to expose content, what it means to protect someone, what harm means, what I don't see really. So let's start with this investment that are not rocket science, to be honest. And then we can see, what's happening next in terms of management. But to your point, the harm on children is enormous when it comes to desensitization. And also, just beyond being in front of content, it's just like the mental harm that it creates to young children when they're overexposed to screen, period, whatever is on the screen. And it's a pandemic that we are facing. It's a silent one, but it's a pandemic. It's a healthcare problem.
Does anyone else want to add something?
So in every school now exists un pass numérique. So pass numérique, c'est à 10 or 11 years old. So each teacher becomes some information to use social media, internet, and so on. And the name is past numeric. It's a measure which is not very old. So I think since 1, 2 years or 2 years. So it's a measure of the French government.
Very interesting. Thank you for sharing. Yes.
I think raising awareness, and it is key actually as well. We have to work on all fields, on all sides, like to improve an online safety environment, So I think raising awareness is really key. And actually, I wanted to bounce back on something you said, is like the risks that there are for children as well. And what I see is that in the work we do, focus on, online gender-based violence and the online toxicity of the manosphere, etc. And we see that the manosphere is really on the rise. So the manosphere, how you can define this, is like extremist, masculinist movements online. And what do we see is that from a very young age, like I reckon from the age of 10, kids start to see those contents as well, and it's highly addictive, especially on TikTok, where it's highly romanticized with trends, there's something truly addictive about it, and it creates radicalization as well. And by creating masculinist radicalization, you lead to other types of radicalizations as well. So I think this is a challenge as well that we need to address as well, that we will see that will be on the rise more and more. But I believe awareness is key. Going to schools is key. We go in schools on a daily basis, and we talk with kids as well. And it's important to have, like this horizontal approach. Do not, paternalize, if I may say, the kid. And sometimes these folks know more than we do, So we can also learn from them. Yeah.
Thank you. Do we have a... No, we have to unfortunately close the session. Well, thank you so much, all the panelists. It was so interesting.